Can everyone see? Okay. Yeah, okay, here we go.
Here is our agenda. First, we will provide an overview of the project. Then, we will analyze the structure of the project, and finally, we will illustrate the digital activities devised. This presentation aims to illustrate the collaborative project implemented within the Italian program at the University of the Witwatersrand in South Africa, in collaboration with the University of Avellino in Italy. The undergraduate third-year Italian course From Colonialism to Post-Colonialism and Beyond, which focuses on post-colonial Italian literature and films, was redesigned and implemented in a blended format in the 2018 academic year at this university. To blend the Italian course, a digital learning environment has been customized drawing on the collaborative project implemented at Monash University in the previous years. The transnational collaborative project was developed in partnership with the University of Avellino in Italy as the result of a bottom-up teacher initiative. Instructors of Italian, together with the project coordinator from the University of Avellino, first devised the theoretical framework for the digital learning project and then created the technology-mediated contents. The instructors also interacted on Skype with the students. After analyzing the From Colonialism to Post-Colonialism and Beyond course syllabus and students' needs, the project designers set out to develop an online student-centered context-driven learning environment within a socially constructivist framework, which envisions learners as active, meaning co-constructors. Within a sociocultural framework, language learning is viewed as socially constructed. So, dialogical interaction, which is instrumental in fostering knowledge construction and foreign language development, played a key role in the digital project design. Overall, the digital learning environment devised provided with students with the opportunity, first, to analyze autonomously online contemporary Italian cultural topics deeply interrelated with the colonial and post-colonial film-driven topics discussed during face-to-face classroom instruction at this, and second, to talk on Skype with Italian native speaker instructors, based in Italy, about the topics analyzed online strictly connected to those discussed previously in face-to-face classroom instruction. The digital project was therefore fully integrated into the Italian course syllabus in terms of both content and assessment. A customized assessment framework was devised for the project. Face-to-face classroom instruction and online learning had deep, errant pedagogic purposes, which complemented each other. In particular, the technology-mediated activities aim to foster the development of student speaking and interactional skills in Italian as well as their intercultural awareness. Integrating the collaborative project into the Italian course syllabus fostered the normalization of the digital practices. The project started in late August and finished in late October 2018. The digital project featured 5 30-minute one-on-one Skype meetings as the final project. Before meeting on Skype, students and instructors watched each other's video self-introductions. Students and instructors used the same script to talk about themselves. Getting to know each other through video self-introductions was pivotal to make students and instructors feel more comfortable during the first Skype meeting. For each Skype meeting, students were partnered with different Italian instructors based in Italy. So, learners had the opportunity to talk to various Italian native speakers even though students found interacting each time with a different instructor quite challenging. Before each Skype meeting, students carried out Italian culture-specific activities autonomously online. Students access the online activities on a Google-generated, password-protected website. To help the development of students' metacognition, the objectives of each online lesson were provided on the website and precisely at the beginning of each digital lesson. Instructors selected short videos as input for each digital lesson. The video selected dealt with contemporary Italian cultural topics deeply connected to the colonial and post-colonial film-driven topics students discussed during face-to-face classroom instruction. Some of the topics selected were, for example, comics as a form of art and female emancipation, or rap music and the fluid identity of Afro-Italian second-generation young people.
Within a socio-constructivist framework,
each technology-enhanced lesson consisted of a brainstorming activity, a pre-viewing activity, a while-viewing activity, and two post-viewing activities. The activities aimed at scaffolding learners to manage content in a foreign language effectively. The brainstorming and previewing activities provided students with the content and language knowledge necessary to trigger the top-down process of instrumental impulse during the comprehension of the videos provided as input of each digital lesson. While viewing activities, instead, guided students' comprehension of the videos. Students carried out the online brainstorming, previewing and while-viewing activities autonomously before the Skype meetings.
in particular, the brainstorming activities aimed at activating
students' prior knowledge. With MindMeister, instructors created interactive, image-rich mind maps. Students had to fill in different topic-specific subsections of the mind map building upon their existing knowledge. The activity required students' active engagement.
The previewing activities aimed at introducing key content-specific
vocabulary items and concepts. The previewing activities were devised with Padlet at Digital Notice Board. Students had to match vocabulary items with their definitions presented alongside in sticky notes on the notice board. Thanks to this activity, students familiarized with new content-specific concepts related to the topic of each online lesson and in particular with the content of the video selected for each Skype meeting.
After the brainstorming and previewing activities, students watched the
5-minute-long video selected for each digital lesson. The videos introduced students to the culture-related subject-driven concepts they needed to know to carry out the post-viewing activities on Skype with Italian native speakers. To foster student comprehension of the video content, instructors created digital while-viewing activities, which featured mainly closed questions, such as matching, true and false, and multiple choice. Students streamed the videos and concurrently carried out the while-viewing activities created with Google Forms. Upon submission of the answers, students received immediate automated feedback.
Before meeting on Skype, students received their instructor's video feedback on the brainstorming
and previewing activities carried out in a self-study mode. Instructors provided students with audio feedback also at the end of each Skype lesson. Students therefore received extensive formative assessment throughout the project, which enabled them to self-monitor their learning process. Thanks to formative assessment, instructors monitored students consistently and as a result tailored their teaching practices and strategies to the students' needs.
Within a socio-constructivist and sociocultural framework, social construction of
meaning and dialogical interactions are instrumental in fostering students' active meaning-making, language development, and content knowledge construction. In keeping with these theoretical principles, the post-viewing activities were devised to foster students' social meaning-making through intercultural dialogical video-mediated interactions in Italian. Like collaborative projects can promote intercultural awareness only if intercultural practices are explicitly discussed. So, the project post-viewing activities focused on the intercultural analysis of the topics presented in the videos. To foster students' intercultural awareness, instructors help students analyze explicitly the value systems underlying the Italian and South African cultural practices discussed in each Skype lesson.
In particular, in the first post-viewing activity, instructors ask students a series of open-ended
questions based on a previously selected set of key concepts emerged from the video and featured in infographics. Talking in Italian with their instructors on Skype, students, therefore, analyzed more thoroughly and evaluated critically the concepts presented in the videos. Instructors encourage students not only to answer questions but also to ask questions. Instructors help students voice their views and opinions. Students' voices, experiences, and knowledge were pivotal to analyze topics within an intercultural framework. The second interactive post-viewing activity, which was created using Genially, consisted of tasks such as problem-solving, opinion exchange, and role-playing. In tasks, meaning is the priority. The tasks encourage students to use the concept and language developed thus far in the online lesson to produce complex output in Italian in new contexts. Interacting with their instructors, learners use the foreign language to evaluate content, formulate hypotheses, and problem solve. The various tasks fostered a high degree of student engagement, creativity, and intercultural awareness effectively. Students enjoyed these activities. As Kim suggests,
A task is an activity in which meaning is primary. There is some sort of relationship
to the real world. Task completion has some priority, and the assessment of task performance is in terms of outcome. Students'
participation in the project was assessed through learner-generated knowledge. For the last lesson,
students created collaboratively a short video focusing on South African Italian intercultural aspects. Using this university as a background, students appeared in the video explaining various intercultural issues. Acting as knowledge producers, learners showed deep learning and understanding of the intercultural perspective underpinning the digital learning project. Students perceived the co-construction of the video as a highly significant experience.
Self-evaluation was fostered as part of the telecollaborative project. After each Skype meeting, students filled in an
online self-evaluation questionnaire, which enabled them to reflect on their own learning process and experience. Overall, blending the Italian course
through the telecollaborative project presented here fostered, to a certain extent, the
internationalization of the curriculum. The transnational telecollaborative
project developed for WITS may represent a digital learning model that other higher education institutions,
not only but also in the South African context, may adopt to implement similar highly interactive blended courses.
Okay, thank you very much. I am going to pass on to our next presentation. Multech data management, anonymization, and file names by Caleb Barbosa Lopes. Yeah, sorry I took so long on that. All right.
I'm Keila Lopes. I work at the Federal University of Acre in Brazil, and I'm going to present today a part of my PhD research. It's a pleasure to participate in this event. The title of my presentation is, as you can see, Multech Data Management, Anonymization and Files Names. The research question I tried to answer with this research was, what procedures are needed to be adopted for the Teletandem Databank become an open access shareable corpus? To begin with, it's important to let you know, Teletandem data used in this research were collected from 2012 to 2015 by the Teletandem São José do Rio Preto Research Team, São Paulo, in Brazil. Aranha, Lozário Moraes and Moreno, 2015, described the data collection. The data were stored in external hard drive, but could not be used, could not be shared as it was, because it missed anonymization of some information, which could lead to participants' identification. The methodological procedures, as you can see, first I elaborated a data management plan which established meaningful alphanumeric code for each learner, a standard procedure to anonymize information which could lead to some identification, and consistent and standard file names. What was the code? The code was established for what I named IT, Teletandem Identification. The IT was created following a protocol based on Briney 2015, Chanier and Wigan 2016, Aiden 2013, and Aiden et al. 2011. The next slide, you can see the IT creation protocol. In the IT, the researchers can see information about the learner, the institution, the institution's course, the sex, and Skype user's number. In this example, I for IBUS student, 27, a student from PhD in Linguistic Studies, F for female, and 12 because the Skype username in this case was UNESP Rio Preto 12. The codes, the IT or alphanumeric codes, were used in the standard file naming. Each file produced by the learner has his or her IT on the file, and information such as address, name of relatives, and even name of pets were substituted by the IT to anonymize the data. About the procedures, all documents produced by the learners were anonymized using the ITs. The anonymization included chat registers, the learners' diaries, initial and final questionnaires, the text written to be reviewed by the partner, in which even the comments on the review test were anonymized, in a total of 2,070 documents being anonymized. About the files naming standard, you have here an example. The protocol was first, the year of the interaction, second, the learner's alphanumeric code, third information is about the partnership and Teletandem modality, I for integrated and SI for semi-integrated, and the fourth information is about the task. In this example, is the intermediary teletandem oral session. First, because of this, you have SOTIN number 1. With this, the researchers can have information about the data. The final remarks. I think the anonymization in files names in Multec followed a consistent protocol, which can be used in other multimodal corpora. All the work done to maintain the ethic in research is worth the time and planning that anonymization demands. These are the references I used for this presentation. This is my email address if you want to contact me. I think it's
That was not me. Kayla, thank you. I'm going to put on our next presentation. Here we have goal setting in teletandem. How well can participants decide what they want to learn? By Susie Makispati Cavallati and Tim Lewis.
Hello, my name is Susie Cavallari. I am going to present the paper Goal Setting in Teletandem. How well can participants decide what they want to learn? This presentation is based on a paper that I have written in collaboration with Dr. Tim Lewis from the Open University in the UK. Basically, we focus on the institutional integrated teletandem context, in which a series of teletandem tasks is incorporated into the foreign language lessons. One of these tasks is an initial questionnaire. And one of the questions in this questionnaire asks the students to set a goal for their participation in teletandem. Basically, this is due to the autonomy principle. Both in the autonomy field and in self-regulated learning field, there is a consensus that setting a goal is a key element of autonomous learning. So basically, the question we set out to answer here is, how well can students decide what they want to learn as they participate in teletandem? The literature on goal setting has defined two different goal orientations. Goals can be mastery, when they focus on the process or on the acquiring and developing competence. Or they can be performance goals, when they focus on the product and on demonstrating one's competence or on outperforming others. So what we would expect is that students, as they participate in teletandem, they would think of a mastery goal or a learning goal, right? A goal focused on the learning. There are also some goal categories established in the literature by Shank in terms of specificity, temporal distance, and difficulty. So, according to this author, specific goals raise performance. Basically because they specify the amount of effort required for success and provide standards against which to determine progress. In terms of temporal distance, short-term goals or proximal goals are achieved more quickly, so they cause higher motivation and better self-regulation than long-term or distal goals. In terms of difficulty, moderately difficult goals seem to have the best effects on motivation and self-regulated performance. In terms of data, we use 94 goal statements from 79 initial questionnaires. So 79 students who participated in teletandem and answered the questionnaire between 2012 and 2015. These data are in the Multec multimodal teletendon corpus. As we analyzed this data, we tried to check the orientation of students' goals, also how specific, difficult, or proximal the goals are, and how appropriate they are to the context. So ideally, effective goals should be mastery goals or focused on the learning. They would be specific, moderately difficult, and short-term, right? And there might be some consideration of the specificities of the context in teletandem, a bilingual interaction with a foreigner, right, and which lasts only 8 weeks. Very briefly, goals, in terms of difficulty, the goals we found, most of them were considered easy, a few of them were considered difficult, and 33% were considered moderately difficult. In terms of specificity, most were generic, a few were vague, which is even more generic than generic, and 31% were specific. And in terms of temporal distance, most of them were distal, so they were long-term goals that couldn't be achieved in teletandem. 43% were considered short-term or proximal. Some examples of these, of the effective goals, or the goals that were focused on learning, moderately difficult, specific, proximal, and appropriate to the context, are these. In fact, there were only 9 goals, or 9% of the total, and they represent a sense of what happens in teletandem and the affordances that the context might have. For example, my principal goal is to try hard to understand what other people, in this case my teletandem partner, are saying to me, given that I have quite a few difficulties listening to and understanding English when it's being spoken naturally and rapidly. Or this other student asked for answers about daily language and details that I didn't learn well with the teachers. Or I am this semester presenting a seminar on the US higher education, so it would be interesting to get more information about it with my teletandem partner. So we can see here a sense of what they need to learn and what the partner can offer during this time in which they are going to collaborate. Some final considerations. Because there are only 9 or 9.6% of goals which are considered efficient, students seem to need assistance in goal setting. So we might consider implementing some forms of assistance, for example, consciousness raising before the exchange starts, during the preparation phase or during the tutorial. The students could get acquainted with these categories, these criteria for effective learning goals. They could even try to rank goals which would be appropriate to the context in terms of specificity or difficulty and etc. Besides the questionnaire, which is based on the CEFR self-assessment grid, there are other tools that could help students establish appropriate learning goals and monitor what they have been doing in order to achieve those goals. The language biography and the language passport, which is also based on the CEFR, could be some of these tools. And finally, as students set goals and plan their learning in teletandem, they could be assisted by an experienced teacher. So a more one-to-one kind of orientation could help them set more effective and efficient goals. So I think that's it. Thank you very much. These are my references.
Thank you, Dr. Cavallotti. Oops. We are moving on to our next. Oh, so what was that? Okay. The figure of the native speaker through the years in the teletandem context. Alisandra Carolini Alves and Doutora Ana Cristina Biondo Salomão.
Hello, my name is Lisandra and I am a master's degree student at GuTelOnX, and my advisor is Dr. Ana Cristina Biondo Salomão. This presentation is based on partial results from my ongoing dissertation, and it will focus on the figure of the native speaker through the years in the teletandem context. This current presentation has been provided by Methodology and Data Collection and Analysis. This is a qualitative study of ethnographic nature. The data have been collected from questionnaires answered by participants from the first semester of 2016 to the second semester of 2019. The analysis follows an interpretivist approach, which means that the data are subjected to the researcher's subjectiveness. The most recurrent themes have been grouped into 5 categories, which are the native speaker as a lure for the learner, the importance given to the native speaker by the learner, the native speaker as a validator of the learner's knowledge, the native speaker as the arbiter and parameter for the language learner, and the emotions related to the native speaker. The native speaker as a lure for the learner. In this category, 37% of the answers came from 2019, whereas 32% came from 2018. The answers from 2016 represent 26%, and the remaining 5% came from 2017. The importance given to the native speaker by the learner. 43% of the answers in this category come from 2019. The years of 2017 and 2018 are responsible for very similar percentages, with 25 and 24% respectively. The year of 2016 holds 8% of the answers. The native speaker as a validator for the learner's knowledge. In this category, there is a tie between the years of 2019 and 2018, with 43% of the answers each. The remaining 14% were answered in the year of 2017. In this category, no answers from 2016 have been found. The highest percentage in this category comes from 2016, with 46% of the answers, followed by the year of 2018, with 42% of the answers. The years of 2019 and 2017 combined represent 12% of the category, with 8 and 4% of the answers respectively. Emotions related to the native speaker through the years. This category has been analyzed in 2 different ways. The first way it has been analyzed shows the percentages that the answers from each year represent in each category. That is what we have been doing so far. So, in this first moment, we have half of the emotions related to the native speaker coming from the year of 2018, followed by the year of 2017 with 29%, and finally the year of 2019 with 21%. In this category, no answers from 2016 have been found. The second way it has been analyzed categorizes the emotions as potentially playing a positive, negative, or mixed role in the learner's experience. Answers were considered mixed when they mentioned both positive and negative emotions at the same time. 45% of the answers were considered positive, which comprises the majority of the answers. 35% of the answers were considered mixed, whereas the remaining 20% were considered negative. The data shown allow us to infer that the figure of the native speaker is still very present in the learner's mind, since all of the answers analyzed for this presentation only considered the answers that brought up the native speaker spontaneously, that is, without being asked about the native speaker.
Well, I would encourage you to ask your questions on the chat. I don't see any of them. If you want, you can write your questions. I can address to the presenter, or you can open your mic and just ask your question to the one you are interested in. So feel free to write your questions or to open your mic. Congratulations to all presenters. Yes, go ahead, Vivi.
Thank you, Solange. I have a question for Susie and Dr. Lewis. So I'm also interested in seeing the correlation between the goals set by the student and what happens during the interactions, what's ongoing in relation to the goals that they have set. Did you happen to look at the post questionnaires as well? And could you talk a little bit about what you have observed in relation to that?
Vivi, that was not one of the purposes of our paper, but I did, as a matter of fact. The problem is that we have fewer final questionnaires in the corpus than we do initial ones. And the answers to the question like, do you feel you have achieved your learning goals, are superficial. And then if we do not follow what this student has done minimally during the interactions, what the answers to the final questionnaire do not add much. This is also one of the reasons why we decided not to make this comparison between what they say before and after, okay? Also, because I think we would have, like, to really make any kind of comparison, we would have to reduce, like, to have exactly the same set of students answering the first and the final questionnaires, and I didn't want that. So this broad view I had, like a very general view of the answers of the final questionnaires, is they tend to answer the questioning in a very superficial way, like, oh, I think I achieved all my goals, you know, or I don't think I achieved my goals, but there is no, you know, really reflection on why they did or why they did not achieve any goals, you know. But I think you mentioned that you are interested in also checking what they do after they set the goal. I don't know if I understood what you said by what goes on, what's going on.
Yeah, so in my dissertation, I'm trying to see if the goals that they set in the beginning are what they are working on throughout the interactions.
Vivi, I think this is a very interesting topic, you know, but I also believe that they might rephrase, reframe, reorganize their goals. From experience, you know, I have never checked data. but from experience, you know, during mediation sessions and everything.
I agree with you. Thank you for the answer.
We have a question here from Martha. After students determine their goals, were they guided to set their learning tasks accordingly? I mean, were the tasks okay?
Martha, there are tasks that students have to carry out during the sessions. These tasks are proposed by the teachers. Okay, so in general, well, in the corpus, these tasks are writing tasks. Students have to write tasks in their texts in the language they are learning, in the foreign language, and share the text with their partners so that the partner can review and suggest any amendments, you know, to improve the text. So the same student will receive a text in his or her native language and offer suggestions to his partner, his or her partner. So this is basically the only task. They have to exchange texts during the 8-week period in which they interact. So this week, the Brazilian shares a text with his partner. Next week, the foreigner partner shares his text with the Brazilian. And this revision, or even the topic, the theme of the text, might be addressed, might be discussed during the oral interaction. We are not sure students actually want to talk about the texts during the interaction. They might have more interesting things to discuss. We are not sure if they do it. But basically, this is the task they should carry out while they participate in Teletandem. So the question you were asking is quite difficult to answer, because how can the goal they set, the goal that they established in the beginning, is in accordance with a context that has this kind of task to be carried out? Know what I mean? Of course, they do not have, it's just a suggestion from the teachers, right? But they have to take, participants have to take into consideration all of that. Well, they are going to meet a foreigner for 8 weeks. They will talk half of the time in each language. They will share texts. They will revise texts. So which learning goal is minimally coherent or appropriate to this experience they are going to have? So this is the question I am, you know, trying to answer. I don't know if I answered your question, by the way.
I was muted speaking, sorry. In the analysis of the goal set in the pre-questionnaire, did you look into differences in goal setting between the students that were participating in the Teletandem for the first time versus the students that had already participated?
No, but I think this might be relevant.
Yeah,
no,
I just have a comment on that. But as a language learner, as an Italian language learner, it's very difficult to set goals. I don't know, I want to speak Italian, that's my goal. It's very difficult to write. I mean, for me, right, that I'm acquainted with what goal setting means. It's very difficult to say what you really want to achieve, right? And if I achieved, I don't know. I don't know if I achieved my goals in Italian, because I don't even know which ones I had. So it's a very difficult area to to research, I think. So I don't know.
Yes.
I think
How
all
is
the
the
questions.
How?
Paula, you were muted.
Is the question formulated? How is the question written?
For the students?
Yeah, for the students.
Paula.
Okay.
No. But I can paraphrase.
Vaguely. Maybe
it's something like this.
Sure.
There is a link to the self-assessment grid of the CEFR grid. Okay, so there is a link. So click on the link, check the self-assessment grid, and discover what level you are in different in the different abilities.
Okay.
The second question, based on the self-assessment of your own proficiency level in different abilities, what set a goal, like, or what would you like to learn as you participate in Teletandem? What do you think you can learn while you participate in Teletandem?
Yeah, maybe Solange is right. It's quite
difficult
to answer.
Yeah. But I think that's the point. Look, if we really want, we keep talking about being autonomous. Teletandem principle, one of the most important principles is autonomy. Well, setting a goal and monitoring if you are achieving your goals is one of the basic elements of autonomous learning. So we have to help our students to learn how to set goals, right?
Yeah.
Martha is saying that in her experience, it's difficult because most of the times tasks are provided by facilitators. What if students have other learning goals not related to the tasks? And their autonomy is somehow restricted by the context and nature of the Teletandem project. And who would like to comment on that?
Is the question to me?
Yeah, it's not a question, it's a comment actually, but you
have a point there, Martha. However, I strongly believe, based on some research on autonomy, that students also have to learn how to be autonomous.
Yeah.
So sometimes giving them a task to carry out, at the same time that may restrict their autonomy, may help them understand what they can do in order to learn while they participate in Teletandem. Sometimes students, okay, I agree. I really think that interaction, just, talk about whatever you want, is conducive to learning. They're going to learn, okay? But in some cases, the students say, well, we don't have much in common, we don't know what to talk about, and the conversation is not flowing. And so if they have nothing to talk about, how come they are going to learn? So that's why the task is at the same time proposed, but not mandatory. They can decide if they want to do that. They have to write the text, yes. But during the interaction, they do not have to use the text. They can talk about whatever they want to. And at the same time, they are going to get a review from the partner. So this is this type of task that we proposed is at the same time a way to help learners who might be facing difficulties in or who might be struggling, during interactions, and they don't know what to do. Because our experience also has shown that it's hard to be autonomous. We really, Solange said, we really don't know sometimes we really don't know what we want and how to achieve it. So I don't know if I answered, but basically what I feel is that sometimes the students need some instruction on how to learn autonomously. I guess that's what I think.
Okay, we have a question now to Giovanna, Anita, and Brian. Could you comment on some of the themes that were more challenging for students to discuss and for you to mediate? And how did the students approach them?
Yeah, migration. Migration was the most sensitive topic because students focused also on new identities, how two cultures can actually shape a new shifting identity. And this was a very interesting topic also because classes were really heterogeneous. There were people who had parents who came from Italy, people who were born in South Africa who had never been in Italy, people who had just spent 1 year in Italy. So they had different perceptions of Italian culture, okay? And how did we mediate them? Especially choosing topics, for example, rap songs or comics designed by migrant women. So we picked kind of very cutting edge topics, highly visual topics, okay? And we asked them to work on the visual components. So we also asked students to represent from a visual perspective their perceptions. And using visualization was an excellent way to mediate kind of very sensitive topics. So visualization was a key tool, and digital tools definitely helped us a lot.
Thank you, Giovanna. I think Adélia has a question to Susie as well, because it was like coming at the same time. Susie, do you think that the learner training can be done through mediation? And another one from Adélia. Do you think tasks can include some activities to help them to be autonomous?
Yes, Adélia. I think teachers or mediators are one of our roles as mediators is to try to help them, try to help students to become more autonomous, which is difficult too. And I think that some tasks could really help them. Maybe instead of just, telling them what to do, we could try to help them think of alternatives, for whatever problems they might be, whatever learning problems they might be facing. Of course, they don't know, or some of them might not know, and we can feed them with some ideas. So I guess this is, this is our role, is like to try to balance how much instruction we give, not to like do this and do that and direct too much, but at the same time give them some guidelines on what could work. So yes, mediation is key, and some tasks, could definitely help. My point is just that I feel that autonomous learning should be based on leaving space, and giving options to students. Students should be able to choose if they don't know what to do.
Just an intervention before I have a question. Sorry. Yeah, Paula has a question, but it's just an intervention. When I see people speaking, and when I'm speaking about teletunding, it seems to me that we should be doing just this project in the whole year, this is the only thing that we should be focusing our attention on, so we could develop all the tasks and all the mediation and all the conversation with each student, and because there are too many things at once to be done. Paula, I don't think it's a question, it's just a comment, right, Paula? At least in teletandem learning scenarios, we ask students which their goals are. Rarely students are asked what they want to learn. Exactly. But see, if you ask, you have to answer. If they tell you what they want, right?
Yes, Solange, but they are not used. At least we are starting to ask them, and then maybe they ask. But I completely agree. Is you know that we should do more to develop this skill.
If I may add something, we actually asked students at the end of the first project, and so we modified the project according to their wishes, their fears, their expectations, their views of Italy that sometimes we had not imagined they would be interested in. So we tried as much as we could to cater to their needs. Okay, we tried.
Yeah. I have a question to Lisandra. We don't have, just keep the chat going on. You can ask as many questions as you want. I would just like to know, Lisandra, if you think your results would be different in a classroom context. Why? Because your context is telecollaboration. But do you think that this idea of native speaker and these feelings towards native speakers would be different if they were in a classroom context? I mean, do you think that the context matters?
I do think context matters. I come from public school, so most people were not interested in learning English. Can anyone hear me?
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I don't even think this whole native speaker thing would be relevant in that context. Most of them were not even interested in learning English to begin with. But when you study contexts of people who are really interested in learning a certain language, and they are there to learn a certain language, whether it's teletandem or a regular language class in an academy, I think you could definitely have different answers.
Yeah. Actually, Maisa had a question to you as well. Considering the view of English as a global language and that most people who speak it are non-native speakers, how do you view the importance that is given to the figure of non-native speaker in the language learning education?
Of the native speaker,
the native speaker, including in the language learning education, including the teletandem context? This is for you, and the other one is also for you, which is about your theoretical foundation.
Okay, so first to Ms. Zakir, I was already answering her in the chat, so may I just read what I already wrote?
Yeah.
So,
yes, please.
I have read texts by Hasha Gopal, Musu, and Lourdes, and talking about this. And what happens is that many institutions, especially the ones that you have to pay for, they advertise the native speaker as a differential or as something special, as something that is really different that you should aspire to. So, and many times, sometimes this native speaker is not even an actual language teacher. But the simple fact that he's a native speaker, he's already considered an expert in his language. And And they show this as if the contact with the native speaker per se would help the learner to achieve their goals, to improve their linguistic skills. And this has been very frequent in my data, this idea that the native speaker will help me to develop my English, will correct my pronunciation, will help me speak with the flow that is more similar to a native speaker. And many times these partners are not, they are not students who are studying to become language teachers. But they are held very, but they have a very special place in the learner's mind because they are native speakers. So in education, these authors, they have already said that when you have the native speaker, you have this demand for schools to have native speaker teachers, so you can learn to speak like a native speaker. So you create this demand for the learner to speak like a native speaker, and you make money out of this. And when you are going to hire an English or a language, any language teacher, you're going to look for a native speaker. Sometimes they are going to hire a professional and they require the person to be a native speaker of that language. So it definitely has its impact on education. Have I answered your question?
Can I make a quick observation? Sorry.
Yes, of course.
You know, it's kind of funny, the whole concept of the native speaker to begin with, right? Because, yes, you know, Viviani here can speak of the native speakers in Georgia versus the native speakers I can speak of here in Maryland. And whoever practices, right, is going to have a very different experience. The same with my students. I have in my advanced Portuguese conversation class, I have my students speaking to a student in Assis and to a student in Cariri. And so they get two very different experiences, two very different realities. And that, I don't know, you know, I know that money drives everything, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, but that is the truly rich experience, is to be able to have a diverse view of what you're getting into, and not that, you know, you're speaking the Queen's English all the time. No, no offense, Will.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, so to Ms. Cavallari, my theoretical foundation are Davis, 2003, 2004, 1991 or 99, I can't remember very precisely, I'm sorry. Crumsh, Rajagopalan, Musu and Lourdes, and many others that I can't remember now, but the vast majority do come from Davis. Cook, yes, these are the most prominent names.
Thank you, Lisandra. I think we still have some time, and I would like to address Kayla. Susie has a question for you, Kayla. Can you please comment on challenges of anonymizing data? What were the challenges you faced?
I think for me, the greatest challenge of all when I was anonymizing the data was to do it manually. As the amount of documents were significant, I had to search for any info in every document, so that, for example, if someone in the diary wrote about the relatives, I should substitute the name of the relatives using the learner's IT. So I had to read all the documents, the diaries, the chats, and try to find any information who could lead us to identify that learner. that was hard because sometimes I was, oh my God, maybe I didn't do it completely. And I had to read again, again and again till I got this done. So this was really hard. I thank you, Susie, for the question.
Okay, Maísa.
This was just a comment. I think it's something very important to be thought about, right? Because we've had some issues on pairing the students up because of this idealized view of the native speaker. People want to sound like native speakers, and I think we should reflect about that. And I think your work is great, Lisandra. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you, everyone, for the presentations. Sorry.
Sorry, Maísa, but I think we should include that on our courses. I include that in my course. We study this idea of global language, native speakers, and those texts from Widdowson about the myth of the native speaker. I think we should include that in our courses because it's unthinkable that students from letras keep thinking that the native speaker is the role model and don't ask themselves questions that Michael posed, like native speakers from where, who's the native speaker? And
yeah,
see, this is, I mean, I think that it should be included. I mean, if they were from other courses, that's okay. I mean, they are not going to be teachers of English, or they are not going to be teachers of any language. But if we are talking with linguists and people who, yeah, so.
And we cannot forget the horrible accent either.
Yeah. I was thinking about this, that I would like to have Cariri's accent. It's so interesting when they are speaking. It's not horrible, it's fantastic. Some are, yeah, depending on the place, they're just, I'm just envious.
It sounds stress-free.
Yeah. I agree with you, Maísa. Native-like should not be a thing. We need to teach our students to communicate, and they need to work towards intelligibility and comprehensibility. Yeah, definitely. Yes. Any more comments? Everybody's very, very tired because it's been a long day, but we still have some minutes if you want to approach any other topic or make any other comments. Okay. Will Hutton has, in our project with UNESP and Queen Mary, the focus was on developing English language, ELF, English language for foreigners.
As foreign language.
English
as foreign.
As lingua franca. No.
Ah, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So the UNESP students were exposed to a range of world Englishes. Yes.
And I think you found that an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. But they have to, I mean, they have to think about, or they have to be introduced to the concept of English as a lingua franca, right?
Yes.
They should watch some David Crystal's videos on that, or, you know, as a global language. And that's why I said that it should be included in the syllabus of every language and literature course. Yeah. Sorry. Sylvia has said, today we see very interesting and informative assessment of foreign language skills based on the other person's exposure to alien accent. What they considered alien accent. Yeah. And just to see, I hear a lot. I can't understand him because he does not sound English, as if my students sounded English. It's so funny to, yeah. Maisa has sent the attendance list. You love being called an alien? Me too. What kind of accent do you have, Sylvia? What does your accent look like? Middle Atlantic accent.
Your microphone?
Yeah, I noticed. Thank you. Yeah, I say very Brazilian, even though I really try to sound whatever else sometimes. I wake up tired. I can't go any further. But it's interesting because there's a whole layer of status to, like, how good my English is. If I say, you know, when you actually sound the R's and the T's of very American English accent kind of conversation. But yeah, I even tried some accent from South Carolina when I lived there when I was younger, Georgia, when, you know, V and I were working at UGA, but yeah, I can't go any much further than whatever. If I get the idea straight, you know, I'm happy these days. Thank God it's not about accent. We know communication is much more than that. So
yeah, thanks God it's not more about accent, because there was
not anymore.
I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, not anymore.
Only,
because,
it doesn't evolve only around that anymore. Yeah, there's much more.
It was interesting when we were implementing the teletandem here in the languages. One of them was Arabic, and we had a couple of the Arabic instructors. They had been teaching for many years. Say they're going to practice with Jordan. Oh no, I'm going to have to correct everything. You know, they speak wrong in Jordan. You know, and so it's amazing because this is not just something that is general in society. It's also people that have been teaching. Also, a lot of us, I guess, we carry it even if we're aware of it or not. You know, like you said, there's this prestige associated to it. You know, about the way it is, and everybody's got a better way of speaking than the other. You know, I heard learning Spanish. I heard many times the best Spanish is from Salamanca. Unless you're in Latin America, in that case, the best Spanish is from Colombia, you know, or something like that. And it's just so odd nowadays to still hear that, you know, from professionals, you know, from people that do this for a living. And I think it's got to do with the teacher education. You know, that's been changing recently. So the newer generations are going to clear that, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
If we help them, actually.
We always do, because like you said, we are eternal learners of language, right? So we always help, professionally speaking, you know, in the way we chose to be our profession, our career, but also with our own experience, with our anecdotes and relatability.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Don't forget tomorrow
for your
morning.
Participation. Tomorrow we have Paula Leone's talk.
Bright and early for us. For her, it's not so early, but for us.
For her, it's 10 o'clock already.
Yeah.
So she has to finish now. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Grazie a tutti.
Great session. Thank you.